Hey, you know what episode this
I'm
is?
trying to 200
186.
187. Mofos.
187 in the
on an
motherfucking house.
undercover cop.
Oh, I don't want to get subpoenaed
Uh-oh.
or
Well, I
indicted.
mean, you can get. I mean, nothing's gonna. Well, something would happen to us. Nothing's gonna happen. You know, if we're yeah,
That's a good point.
if we kill millions of people with bad medical advice. And
Now, look at that. He's just going to jump right into it, man. We're not even getting wet or anything.
I thought. Yeah. Why wait? You ain't got to
Dude,
buy.
I'm going to
Hey,
tell you,
you ain't got to buy me dinner first.
that gate, like, I have severe PTSD from this. I mean, we've been all chatting about it today, and we talked about how angry we were over, COVID and all the lockdowns and just the stupid stuff, right? And it's, and for a large part, every now and then I'll have a couple drinks and Luke will text something, late at night or something like that. And it kind of gets me fired up. And then I just pass out and go to bed. But then after watching the Fauci hearings today and then seeing the excerpts from his diary over the last several days, dude, it makes me angry. And not just at him. I'm angry at probably 95% of humanity, or at least those that controlled my destiny at the time or what I was doing.
Yeah. COVID. I said something to somebody today about it. We were having a discussion, and I said the only good thing that came out of COVID was it told me who my neighbors and friends are at their core. It told me exactly who they are at their core as a person. That was the only good thing. The whole thing is it was just so criminal. Everything from the lockdowns to the made up, science, the 6-foot social distancing, everything. We wrecked an amazing economy and, the wealth transfer and the freedoms that people lost. They arrested a dude. You guys remember that dude out in California who was paddleboarding
surfing
by himself in the ocean. He was 6 feet times 1,000 away from the nearest human being, and they arrested him. Why? Because of people like Anthony Fauci, who just sat in there and thumbed his nose today, at Congress. And that guy, unless there's a civil suit, and I think I saw a state attorney general post that they were going to go ahead and start looking into a criminal indictment.
One of you
I forget
guys,
which state that is.
Yeah, one of you guys posted on X. I don't know who.
I think it was Luke. But dude, it makes me angry. It was criminal. People got deplatformed. People lost their jobs. People got deplatformed.
We lost an episode. We lost a 29-minute episode.
At least one. I couldn't find the other one, but I think we got 2 taken down. But
yeah, people lost their livelihoods over this, and come to find out, they lost their livelihoods because they were stating facts. They were stating facts, and those
or
didn't
just
fit
questioning
the narrative, or just
some of it was just questioning.
It's
don't want to get too meta with the whole COVID thing yet, or spend the whole episode patting ourselves on the back. All right, we got it, and all that stuff. We'll say I did go back and listen to episode 11, and those of you who are, those of you who are YouTube only, first of all, y'all are weird. Talking to you, Grant. he watches on YouTube. He won't go to any other platform, but that's the only one I can see it got pulled from was YouTube. You go back and listen to episode 11. If you can put up with the crappy sound, it's kind of interesting to hear the three of us talk where we were then versus where we are now. I think that was June of 2021. So we were full on into it back then, if I recall. But obviously talking about Fauci and all this stuff, and I said I didn't want to get too meta with it as far as talking about COVID itself and like the origins and everything. But as of course, very frustrating today. I think the three of us were super frustrated, although I did win a lot of money on Kalshi when I was when I was buying options on what Fauci would mention during his testimony. I put down a lot of $1 bets on a lot of stuff. I bet $1 that he would not, the utterance of Trump would not come out of his mouth, the utterance of all this stuff. I think I made 10, laid down 10 $1 bets, and I came because he pled the fifth. He didn't say any of those words, and I won like $200, man. It was awesome. It was great.
Holy cow.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess
Makes up for all your pain and suffering during the COVID lockdowns.
yes, exactly. It made it all worth it. But it was extremely frustrating, and I shouldn't have been a bit surprised. I should have put all the money in my account, in my Kalshi account, on those things. Makes sense. I liked what makes sense that he would do that, and the legal people talking, well, he's not supposed to be able to do that because he has immunity. But if I was him, thank God I'm not. That's exactly what I would have done. Because now
100%.
you've already got the state of Florida's attorney general coming out and saying, okay, we're going to investigate him now. And I was like, thank God. Yeah. And Damon was just chattering at us on X saying, you know what, whatever, let's move on, and he was saying it not in a give up way, but I was like, no, man, like Roger's always saying, let's give him the Democrat Trump treatment where he's spending all his time and money in court. Dude's worth $12 million or whatever he is. Let's drag him through that stuff until he's dead. Because,
yep,
before we get too, I could chatter on this, but like Roger said, or it might have been Josh, one of you two guys said, I don't think there is an American that I despise more than Anthony Fauci. I mean, you're not supposed to have hate in your heart and all that stuff, but it is very difficult with that guy for the reasons that you guys mentioned, and let me highlight something. I'll send it straight to you guys. We're getting all these never forget videos coming across X today. And I don't know how we kept our sanity. And I'm not talking about the three of us. I'm talking about the people who were kind of, red pilled on this whole COVID thing and knowing that we were right deep down, that 10th grade science had to be right. How did we not lose our minds with keep it PG-13 as hard as I can. I'm going to try. How did we put up with the dancing nurses? How did we put up with that? And in one video, I was like, did I just get Nelson or Mandela affected here? I was, because I thought I was Mandela affected, because in one of the videos back then, I could have sworn they were doing a choreographed dance with body bags on gurneys, and another one with them carrying a coffin. And I was like, surely I'm remembering that wrong. Surely my brain's playing tricks on me. No. Those videos are out there. I looked them up. They actually did that. Insanity. And it's not just Fauci, right? Josh, you said it. It's not just Fauci. It's your neighbor. It's these people who are still like, thank God for Anthony Fauci. I don't know why you people are so ungrateful. It's such a. I could go on, but you guys, dancing nurses, I guess.
Hey man, Operation Morningstar. I'm just telling you, it's. And this is what makes me so angry about it. It's not just Fauci, like you said, but it's also the media cover up, because that's what happened, right? Media got behind it and said that he's a science. He said he's a science. Now, again, I have a 2 week, 3 week, 4 week, depending on your age and your health. Like, I get it. Those that have some autoimmune issues and this and that, when it first came out, nobody kind of knew. Like, I understand that for a couple of weeks. It's like, hey, let's pause. Let's figure out what's going on here, right? But I think when you listen back to our recordings, within about a month, we kind of had this thing like, I'm not dead yet. I've been around a bunch of places. But here's what pisses me off is, okay, so one, it's on many different levels. I'm gonna probably lose my train of thought. But one, I specifically, and I'm calling out, Queen Creek High School, because I remember dropping my son off to graduate in the parking lot of his high school, having to wait there for about an hour, pick him back up, then go home and wait for the YouTube feed so I could watch him walk across some fucking stage and look at a hologram behind a podium. And like, I don't even know what's going on here. It's like creepy as heck, man. It's like some 80s, CGI stuff. And then go back and pick him up. I'm like, this is the gayest thing ever. Only to find a couple kids after him walks across the stage, and the mom comes up on there and gives him a hug. I'm like, whoa, what the hell's going on here? Now, this is on YouTube. The feed is still out there. Well, she's a staffer. She works here at the school. And so that tells you right there. It's like, They knew, people knew, right? But then they got power and wanted to do what, it's the haves and have nots. And then just like I get on today, and I think I texted the group, Google AI, right? Same people that own YouTube that took down a couple of our episodes. So I Google, hey, because I couldn't remember the exact time and this and that. I was like, hey, when was the skate park filled with sand in Queen Creek? And Google AI comes back. You're thinking of somewhere else. That never happened in Queen Creek. It happened in California. What happened in California? And then I had to start looking. I'm like, okay, well, here's the Fox 10 News. And oh, by the way, here's the pictures of the Queen Creek skate park with sand in it to keep kids out of the park. They're trying to go back and rewrite history. And I think one of you posted it on X a little bit earlier. Like, did you not read the diary? I mean, you look at it from day one, Rand Paul, like him, love him, hate him, whatever the guy's principled for the most part, to be a senator. And from day one, he challenged the Wuhan market. And when you look at, and that's the difference, right? When you look at the professional, air quotes, and the scientific, air quotes, guidance that Fauci was given, it was almost 180 from what he puts in his diary. Like, yeah, man, this thing didn't really come from the market. Like, that didn't happen. And then the second piece of that is, how he, damn near brags about how he convinced Cuomo and old boy out in California to shut down schools. Like, he brags about it. And then goes on about, how he's like the most famous person in the world, right? He's got all these movie stars and you got Julia Roberts. Oh my God, freaking out to have him on a call. I mean, the guy was a narcissist full of himself. And then beyond that, beyond the fact I just want to put, so I didn't think I was going to dislike somebody as much as like Adam Schiff or Eric Swalwell. Swalwell took care of himself. So he's kind of off my list, but I thought, nobody was going to really top that Adam Schiff level for me until you get to Fauci, because then beyond all of that, and I didn't know this piece, I didn't know he had staffers on the federal payroll basically submitting his resume for prizes. The dude won $960,000 off one. And when you look at the email, when they were trying to submit it, they basically come back and say, we're not saying no, you just have to help us get to yes. Okay, we all three know what that means. We played that game before. So not only was it a power, control, and narcissistic thing, like the guy just made money. And like you said, he's worth what, $12 million now, or if not more. I mean, it's insane. And I tell you, I mean, and I get it. It's not Christian of me, and forgive me. There was a period there for probably about a good half hour where he looked like a scolded dog. And I loved every second of it. And I think, I hope that because it's not just the states, man. I hope there's civil suits. I hope the state's attorney generals get involved. I hope cities get involved. I hope counties get involved. I want that dude in a courtroom until he dies. And I want every single penny so that him, his heirs, well, maybe not go that far because I do want to go upstairs one day, but I want to get to a point where, even with all that, it won't be 1/100th of the pain that he inflicted on the country and the damage they did to the country. And going back to Josh's point, I mean, I kind of already knew my neighbors were dickbags, but all that did was confirm it. That just proved it. Actually, it shows you, I get the whole hyperbole in this and that, but it's like you sit here and you wonder, and we talked about this one of the earlier episodes, when you look at Nazi Germany, right? And you look at Auschwitz and this, and you're like, man, how could their neighbors put people on a train? And it's like, this is exactly how they do it. I mean, we got one of our listeners that was sneaking people in and out of the garage through the trunk of their vehicle, right? Because their leftist liberal neighbors were going to turn them in
a leftist liberal city.
Yes.
So it's one thing if you're in, a smaller city in Texas, like I am, or in Josh's neighborhood, even, where the cops would just be like, whatever, or the cops, may come over, but they're not going, nobody's going to prosecute you for that. Nobody's going to do anything. But where he was, because I actually gave him crap about that. I was like, man, who cares what your neighbors think? And then he broke it down. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot exactly where you live, pride flags everywhere, pride in Ukraine flags, ally flags, all that stuff. But yeah, I just had to jump in and say, yeah, that was, I'm not gonna say it was brave of him, whatever. I hope he doesn't hear me say that wasn't.
No, but you're spot on, because it's easy to look at it from where we all live. It's like, yeah, the cops ain't showing up here. I mean, maybe now they will, but they did put sand in the sand park. But anyway, or the skate park. But yeah, when you look at where he lives, it's like, yeah, dude, you might actually have to go spend time in a courtroom because you had more than 10 people at your house during COVID because some dickbag up there was like, yeah, you know what? We're mass work. And have you guys seen the replay, the video of the black guy, that Fauci, and I forget who the lady is up there, and they want to give him the vaccine and want to pay him, and I love at the end, he's like, nah, man, if you guys got to incentivize me to take this, like, there's something wrong here, brother. Like, you're absolutely right. Yeah. You're the smartest man on the planet.
Everything he was saying was correct too.
Yeah. And they wanted to put him in jail. They wanted to put that dude in jail. And, and going back to the whole, where it came from, and stuff. And this was and I know, Luke's mentioned this a few times, across the episodes is, look, man, yeah, people were like, are you a doctor? Are you a doctor? Like, well, no, but I can read. I do know how to read. And, I'll give you an example. And, Roger and Luke, they've heard this. You guys have heard this a few times. So I'm, in for a doctor's appointment, and it was a new doctor or specialist that I was seeing. And, so you got to fill out the, kind of some of the new patient forms. And it was like, have you ever had heart disease? Right. It's one of the questions. I'm like, no. So later on, it was, it's like, have you ever had surgery? So I list out, my surgeries and stuff. And so, for those who don't know, when I was 6 years old, on the day I turned 6 years old, I had open heart surgery. And this was in 1983, right? It was the corrective murmur that I had, and that was it. And so this, not a doctor, but this nurse goes, well, I see you had heart surgery, but you didn't check that you had heart disease. I was like, because I don't, right? That was just to repair a murmur. And she went on to lecture me about how a heart murmur is heart disease. That is a heart disease. And I was like, no, it was a mechanical defect is what it was. That's what a murmur, like, that's what it is. And she, of course she was like, well, I can tell you that is not the case and blah, blah. So I was like, all right, whatever. So when the doc came in the room, I was, we got done doing what we needed to do. I was like, hey, doc, I got a question real quick. Hey, is a heart murmur, is that considered heart disease by any medical, institution, American Heart Association? He goes, no. Why? I was like, no reason. Just curious. And the nurse is still in the room, right? So she's just shooting daggers. But it was like, you supposedly are my better in the medical field because you've been to school and received training. It's like that, the whole expert thing, and so this was an NPR tweet on April 23rd of 2020. And I'm going to read it. I'm going to quote it. Virus researchers who are familiar with lab accidents and how research on coronaviruses is conducted say there is virtually zero chance that the novel coronavirus was released as a result of a lab accident, despite misinformation being circulated. So here, once again, we have, air quotes, the experts are betters, the same people who are like, are you a doctor? Are you a virus researcher? Telling us, no, that's impossible. There's no way that happened. And come to find out, that's exactly how it happened. So again, the whole, dude, I lost so much respect, not only for a lot of, neighbors and friends, but I lost complete respect for the medical field. I lost complete respect for the teaching field. Let's not forget the teachers laying on beaches and, not answering their emails while their students are remote, at home struggling, not answering emails, stuff like that. I had to jump on a Zoom call for one of my kids, right? They, teacher logged into Zoom. He's got the Hollywood squares of a bunch of kids and me mugging them right in the middle. Right. I'm like, hey man, like my daughter's been emailing you for 2 weeks on an assignment and you haven't responded. He's like, well, I'm kind of busy. Busy doing what? Your job as a teacher. You're supposed to be teaching these kids. Like, so what are you busy doing? Come to find out, he was busy with a side hustle doing other stuff. I do.
Of course.
When it
Of
came to
course.
medical professionals and teachers, stuff like that, boss, respect gone. Gone.
Well, like
Three
just look at
things.
the common sense, right? Sorry, cut you off real quick. Just the common sense, like the mask thing. So because they put that dirty ass piece of cloth over your face that's got gaps and shit on the side, it's not even sealed. Like again, I've said this. Like I'm all supportive of the true believer. Like we've seen some true believers. That guy
Yeah.
or gal has, hey man, that's a principled individual, and is like, hey man, I'm Bubble Boy. I get
I
that.
want to see you at Mott 4.
Exactly. You know, that person, I'm like, you know what? That person truly believes this. But you see, even Fauci, you see him sitting there at the Nationals game with his mask below his chin because he got tired of wearing
Yeah.
it as the people around him are wearing their masks. It's like, dude, and even putting it on, it's like, you can't tell me that piece of dirty ass cloth that everybody shoved in their back pocket for 4 years is effective.
My favorite was Alyssa Milano and her crocheted mask with all the holes in it. Or remember the who was it? The U.S. Army band or the Air Force band that they were playing their instrument and they had the there was a hole cut out in their mask. You know, so they could play their wind instrument. And you're like, what are we doing? Like, this is the dumbest of times. This is absolutely the dumbest of times, and anybody who questioned it or pushed back was vilified. And you know, it's now I'm getting worked up. Hate it. There's not been
Really,
enough retribution for that.
there will never be, and I'm not saying that in a black pill way. I'm not, because I was just going back and forth with Damon. But there never will be, and you know that. You're always the one saying it, so you know it. It's not just the healthcare field. It's not just Fauci and his staff. It's not just everybody. It's everyone who bought off on this stuff. Was one of my points. I'm just glad I didn't work in the healthcare field, before all this happened, because my level of hate would be even more for those nurses. We were having a discussion unrelated to COVID between two of us. I want to keep it real general right here. Between two of us about the expertise of people in the medical field. And it's like, like Josh said, I can read, I can reason. And it's like, I know you went to school and I respect the credential, but I've met full on, what are they called? The nurses that can prescribe stuff. I forgot it's not registered nurse. No, it's a nurse practitioner, I think.
NP. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, NP, who literally could not read, let alone write. They could not read. They could read barely. Sixth grade level, like military level, baseline military level. But they definitely couldn't write. So it's like, when I see nurses, and it's not just one, it's multiple. When I see nurses like that or other fields like that, it's like, how much credit am I supposed to give you? Like Josh's nurse, good grief, saying he had heart disease. And I had somebody ask me today, and I don't hold any hate in my heart for these people at all. It's just because most people just aren't paying attention for whatever reason. It's not that they don't care. Maybe it's just that they don't have time. Maybe they've got kids. Maybe they've got other hobbies and stuff. They didn't follow this stuff like we did. But this person asked me, well, what did Fauci lie about? Like, what did he lie about? And this person wasn't asking me because they were doubting that he lied. They were just like, I don't know what he lied about. What did he lie about? And it's like, well, the first thing, you put it's a classic, this is the type of case you wish you had with counterintelligence, counterintelligence investigation, where you have somebody's own case files and you're comparing it against reality and what they actually said. And you're like, oh, it's all right here. That's with the diary. It's like, oh my God, he knew in January of 2021, that was a very early on. He knew it came from the lab. He said in his diary that we thought the market was the source, but it turns out that was just, what multiplied it, because it's right next to the lab. He knew in January. January. But I'll tell you this, there's no way we could have known that it came there, from data and everything. But as soon as it came out that there's a Wuhan Institute of Virology, I think the three of us pretty much agreed on the spot. Oh, well, this is a lab leak. Because it's just that it doesn't take a huge logical leap to make that connection. But he knew in January, and they said remember it was the chickadee China, the Chinese chicken. It was a bat. You know all the memes. Yeah. There were some funny memes, but oh man, and I really, in retrospect, Fauci in his diary. First of all, he called it a diary, and that's gay because men don't keep diaries. Men keep journals. That's right. Kavanaugh kept a journal, a very detailed journal since he was like 16 years old, wrote it in every day. And that's part of what saved his bacon is he submitted all the journals. It's like, this is everywhere I've been, everything I've done, what I did that day, everything. And it would have been cool to keep a journal of my thoughts during those times. One of the reasons I want to write that series, test run. But anyway, kept a journal to see, like I could look back and say, this is the point that I was convinced it was lab leak, but I got Fauci and whoever else still telling me, oh no, it's a pangolin that they brought in from the forest. Is what they said. It's so dumb, dude. The whole thing. The ridiculous, and we've told the stories on here before, the ridiculousness, especially when it was, it had gone on for a while. The things we had to do,
But did they call them the CIA guys like a bunch of morons?
Yes, I mean, that's what yes,
just his outlook on, and it's like he's not the only one. It's we've dealt with him. Every scientist, every researcher we've ever dealt with, it's like they don't see the Chinese threat, right? They're scientists, just like I am. They wouldn't steal from us. They wouldn't lie to us. They wouldn't try to harm us. BS, the heck they wouldn't. And then he called their assessment like they were a bunch of morons, wrote some assessment.
That's how much I hate Fauci, because you guys know I don't have a super high opinion of the CIA, but I will say this. I have been around their briefers, like their senior briefers, the one who briefed Congress and people like Fauci, and they're good, man. They're sharp and they're good analysts, and they're not going to brief something that they don't know inside and out. So I'll give them some credit for that. But they were briefing him. This is out of his diary. They were briefing him on voice intercepts coming out of Wuhan, specifically the lab and like the provincial whatever. And they were saying, yeah, this just doesn't match. And that's when he was calling him out. He's like, when she was briefing me on the voice intercepts, she wasn't giving proper respect to the science of it all. And it's like, what the fuck? Bro, I get it. He's a doctor. He's an MD. But, man, they fall back on the science. They fall back on the credential. And it's very easy to dismiss someone who doesn't have that credential, Yeah. So, God.
It's like, well, here's the science, Fauci, the gain of function research that you funded and supported that you lied about. That virus escaped that lab, and the voice intercepts. The voice intercepts have nothing to do with the science of it, right? They have nothing to do with anything scientific other than how we got those voice intercepts. That's it. So the science doesn't factor into that. It's like, look, this is what they are saying. And when you have, he's listening to those cuts. Hey, man, doesn't matter what the science says, what the science behind it is. It's, hey, man, people there are like, oh, shit. Like, fucking, Chen walked out with the fucking vial and dropped it in the lobby and it broke open. And however, it happened.
So if this person does actually listen, so far we've covered just 3 lies. We covered the lab leak, right? Lied about that. That's right there in the diary. Where he was telling the public one thing and he's writing to himself in his diary dated that he knew something different. Okay. Now, would that have changed anything? I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too far. Let's steel man Fauci's position for a second. Let's just steel man his position and say, you know what, Fauci was trying to stave off a 3rd world war. Because if everybody knew that China I don't think they intentionally released it. If it got out of that lab, UN sanctions immediately stop everything. China would have refused. It's like, well, then we're going to blockade and, World War III or whatever, war with China. I don't think that would have happened, but that steel man's kind of weak in my opinion. But I do think, though, that I think that we should have gone to war with China over this because it was so economically devastating and developmentally devastating. It's the equivalent of an attack. And even if they did it by accident, it's like I said, if it escaped by accident, fine. Okay, you can't do this anymore because the world cannot trust you to do these kind of things. And if we catch you doing them, that's it. The world is going to war with you. I think that would have been worth it. I really do.
I think the Fauci piece, that's just, it goes beyond
I'm not
that,
saying
right?
That's what he was doing.
No, I'm just saying, I get what you're saying. I'm saying isolated, you could almost make a case for it, but it's because everything else was wrong after that.
Yes. And the chain of events that led. Yes, but he was also the real reason he was probably covered is the chain of events that led to that gain of function research in Wuhan. It was directly funded by the CDC or NAI, whatever it was, and he was covered his tracks because that's why he was pardoned since 2014 because that's when that research began, and it didn't begin in Wuhan. That it began in the United States until Obama, to his credit, shut it down. To his credit, so what did they do? They moved it to Wuhan, and who knows? But so we covered the lab leak lie, the gain of function lie, the masks are effective lie. But when we get into the really egregious stuff is when we start getting into how they fast-tracked the gene therapy. It's not a vaccine. I got in a long argument with Grok about that last night.
Steve Colbert had the little skit that said it's a vaccine. Remember that little skit?
Yes, God. Cringe.
So bad.
But labeling stuff like ivermectin and all that stuff, they didn't have to worry about vitamin D. If they could have, if vitamin D was the cure for COVID, they would have outlawed it because you cannot fast track a vaccine. What was it called? Emergency can't remember what it's called. Emergency use authorization. If there's an effective treatment, you cannot get that authorization. So they said there is no treatment, and you can believe what you want about the horse paste or whatever it is, but the dude who invented ivermectin does have a Nobel Prize. It is very effective in treating a variety of diseases, not just river blindness. And it's like, well, and they vilified, and that all came from the top. That all came from the top, and the media were given their marching orders, and the media played right along with it. They tinted Joe Rogan's face yellow when he had COVID. But so there's 4 lies right there, and there was a series of lies that went along with developing the mRNA.
So here's another one, just real quick. The case fatality rate.
Oh,
so
God!
Back. Did you see his diary entry on February 8th of 2020? He put in his diary, not his journal, because men write in journals, as you said. He put that the case fatality rate was 0.2 to 0.3%, right? That was what this was the case fatality rate.
Josh, real quick, just for my clarification, I thought it was actually lower than that. I thought it was 0.02 and 0.03. Are you looking at it right now?
What I saw was 0.2, 0.3.
Okay, I'll take it for that then. Still low.
Which could be wrong. But that's closer. Both of those numbers are much closer to, what did we say it was? It was like, it's the flu. It's a flu. It's a bad case of the flu. That puts it closer to actual influenza. It's what it is. He came out and said that it was going to be, fatality rate was all up to 3%. Up to 3%. In which that's, that sent people into a terror. Right? And it's like, hey, this is going to, kill 3% of the, potentially world's population. Like that's huge. That's massive. That's insane. It wasn't even close to that. Not even close. And he knew it. So there's another lie.
So the case fatality rate, and I'll tell this anecdote I was going to say, if I told this again, you guys stop me, but we may have somebody listening who hasn't heard this. a friend here in town, his name's Eric. He and his wife they just sold it. Congratulations, guys. A funeral home slash mortuary service. Okay. So and they had it during COVID. And he was like, oh yeah, there were bodies coming in 100%, way more than usual. Right. I was like, and this guy is boga to the point where it would annoy you. Because it annoys me. Eric will listen, it doesn't annoy me, but he's very MAGA. He has a Trump 45 caliber 1911. he's all in. So, but I was like, really? Okay, well, I got Eric telling me this, and this was while COVID was kind of going on. Is when I met him. When I traveled back and I went to the Chaz. Remember that? That's when I first met Eric. Yeah. So I was like, well, he's telling me this. There must be some validity to it. I was like, well, so tell me about it. Who was coming in? He was talking about how they had to get reefer trucks in there to keep the bodies. It was way more than usual. They weren't ready for it. And he goes, to a person who at first, to a person who had died of like COVID related stuff like pneumonia or whatever it was, to a person over 65 and obese. I was like, so wait, obese, what do you mean? He's like, obese. I'm not talking about overweight. I was like, come on, Eric, every single one. He's like, every single one with that on the death certificate, that was the case. And then he said something that was really spooky. Because I think Fauci was trying to pump those numbers up, like Matthew McConaughey. Those are rookie numbers. What they started doing, according to Eric, and I've heard this before, is when somebody came in with a car accident or whatever it was that killed them, they were testing them for COVID after they were dead. Because Eric said that even when it's cold, like in those reefer vans, that COVID virus is still up in your sinuses and they can still get it. And he said that the whoever it was, I don't think it was the city health, it was somebody else. Maybe it was the Texas health department. I don't know. They were coming in there and testing the dead bodies for COVID so that they could say that's a COVID related death. Now, okay, I made a jump there. Eric did not say that, but that's why they were doing it, because they weren't doing it before. He said the
CDC has come out and said it. I mean, they didn't say that specifically, but their numbers, when you pull up now, 94 to 95%, so 95% on the high end, had an average of 2.6 to 4 comorbidities, right? Obesity, diabetes, old age, whatever. Fauci even says in that video with the black guy that we were just referencing, he's like, well, the flu, not this year because there's no deaths to the flu. You notice how he says that? He goes, there's no flu deaths this year. Yeah, because they were all, you attribute them all to Rona. And then from the CDC, slightly over 5%, COVID-19 was listed as, and it actually puts it in italics as the only cause. That's what they wrote. Exactly what you're saying, right? Hey, never mind the guy fell off a 42-story building and, crushed his skull. He had COVID. So that's what they put down. And a lot of that was tied to the money, right? Because what were the hospitals getting? And you look at, I don't want to go down the road of some of the, big insurance companies, but they were paid extra money.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Lots.
Well, they were
lots of extra
incentive
money.
for them. Incentive for them.
And so, I'm not going to put down, the guy was decapitated when, oh, well, you know what? That dude also tested for Rona and I'm going to get an extra, $1,800 per patient or per death or whatever. That's what they did.
You should have heard me last night going off to my wife about COVID, and she sometimes she just has to listen to my tirades as we're sitting watching
you're still
TV.
Talking about, you're still angry about this.
I pause it. Oh, she's bad too, but I pause it, and I was like, okay, listen. She's like, damn it, I get through the show. But yeah, that was one of the biggest mysteries. You remember we talk about it on the episode. Where the hell did the flu go? Well, there's a number of reasons. First of all, they weren't testing for the flu anymore. If you got sick, you were locked up in your home. If you're going out and get tested, you didn't get tested for the flu. You get tested for corona. You want to know if you got that. That's the number one reason. And for the reasons Roger said. It's like, come on.
Dude, they're still testing for it.
Yeah.
Can you believe that? They still test for it.
I do have some folks, Josh, you were saying something about the True Believers, Bubble Boy and all that stuff, or you guys were talking about that. I respect those people at least, who go all the way with it. I do have some associates, I would say, that I don't want to out anybody, who are still to this day true believers. And they have adjusted their lifestyle. And there's reasons they are, put it to you that way. I'm not going to say anything more than that. There are reasons they are. But dude, when somebody in their house gets sick, they're going tested for COVID. It's like, what's the difference at this point? It's so weak now. It's weaker than the flu. And then I had to yell at the kids because I think my daughter might have gotten sick, and she goes, I went and got tested for COVID. And this was like less than a year ago. I was like, why did you do that? You know why she did it? Military told her to.
Of course.
Why? Why are we still doing this? Oh,
there's still people out there pushing agendas, man. And you know,
entire states doing it.
Yeah. And so the last lie that I'll highlight is, you guys remember, whichever time it was, you know, Fauci and Rand Paul got into it in a hearing, and Fauci said, and I quote, the NIH and NIAID has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Well, we've known that's a lie I think that came out 2 years ago, maybe even 3 years ago. That actually they do. Back to Luke's point. You know, we used to do it here in the States, and then Barry shut it down, rightfully so. And, you know, they moved it over to China because that was when, you know, Fauci was, you know, killing puppies.
ugh.
And Barry was like, no, we're not doing that. And so
Did you ever get it, Josh? Did you ever get COVID?
Yeah.
You did. Yeah. I don't recall.
Yeah. Dude, I got COVID when our youngest got COVID. She was the first one in the house to get it. And I was like, all right, well, you know, whatever. I got it, and I was tired for like a day and a half.
Yeah.
And that was it.
I remember when Roger got it. Roger got it after I did, about a month after I did, I think.
Yeah. You had that weak ass variant A. I got the Delta.
Michelle, my wife, she had more severe, you know, symptoms than I did, but she had some problems breathing and coughing, high fever. But yeah, as I say, it's kind of the same with me. I just, dude, it affected me a few ways. First of all, energy level. You know, I told you when we got locked out of the house, I had to climb up on the balcony, and I was wiped out for the rest of the day. Like I had done 10 sets of deadlifts. You know, I was wiped. And then brain fog was a real thing. I never had that before, where I just couldn't concentrate, and just minor fever and just malaise. But the big thing I was going to ask is the gain of function stuff. Big thing I had was the most noticeable for me, and what really creeps me out was the taste and smell completely went away, which is, and it wasn't because my nose was stuffy. Y'all, all the listeners on here had COVID and different experiences. But that one really freaked me out because the three of us, we really had our noses in the books, you know, medical journals and stuff like that about what's the difference between the Spanish flu and malaria? You know, just going back and forth, like, okay, how does this work? How does a virus, how does this virus work versus this one? What makes this one different? And one thing I couldn't find is any kind of SARS virus that's ever been. It didn't affect the neurological system, because when you lose your taste and smell to that level, that's your neurological system. That is not that's happening in your brain, right? It's creepy. So when people say, well, gain of function, why do they do that? There's a number of reasons they do gain of function, because, man, if you can find a cure to a disease you know is going to make the jump from animals to humans in 5 to 10 years, if you can find the cure for that, or at least a treatment, that's a good thing. In a number of ways, you're going to stimulate the economy because you're going to make a shit ton of money when that thing jumps. There are bioweapons applications to it, of course, because there's spinoffs. And, I think it makes sense, right? The problem I have with gain of function is COVID. I mean, it's too dangerous. Who knows what they were splicing together, because it did affect my neurological system. And here's another thing, a lot of people memory hole, and you can't even find it online anymore. You have to really dig. is when the test subjects in Canada, remember when they got the experimental mRNA, they came back and every one of them tested positive for HIV. Every one of them. None of them had it, but they tested positive for the markers. And it's like, okay, all right. So were they messing around with that virus? You know, it's just too scary. It's too risky to be trusted, especially, you know, we used to think that the CDC was like that movie Outbreak, or, you know, where everybody's, you know, in the suits and everything, and there's no way anything's escaping. The reality is it's not like that. And I personally, I sided with Obama on this one. If this is what he truly believed, I don't think we should be doing it. I don't think anybody should. I think it's messing with nature and in a very damaging way. And so, yeah, I think he deserves a death penalty.
It was Australia.
Oh, I thought it was Canada.
Yeah, it was Australia. University of Queens Island protein, basically a protein led to false positive HIV antibody tests.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary, man. It's scary,
well, look how lucky
stuff.
we were, right? I mean, look at it this way. You look at gain of function and, you know, the severity of COVID. And again, I know some people were impacted, you know, some people died, you know, that legitimately had some illnesses, sickness. Like I'm not downplaying any of that. But look how much worse it could have been. Right. I mean, we're lucky it was just COVID that broke free.
Oh,
I mean, especially when you start talking about gain of function. I mean, it's, you know, fortunately, you know, I still have some funny smell and taste with certain food items.
Me too.
Again, for me, it's not that big of a deal. It's just whatever. But, you know, the grand scheme of things, like, man, what if it was something that was twice as bad as COVID, 3 times as bad? I mean, look how bad it could have been.
Yeah.
That's
What if the vulnerability was like the Spanish flu, where the healthiest people were the ones that were going to die? Oof.
Yep.
That's
they're saying that took out almost 25% of the youth.
Yeah. 18 to 25-year-old males were the ones that got hit the hardest, because it turned the immune system against itself, and the stronger your immune system was, the worse off you were. So if the Spanish flu hit now, the 3 of us fat asses would be okay.
So I got the real question, and you can put this on Kalshi as an option contract or whatever. Does YouTube ban this episode?
This one?
Yes.
I don't think so.
Well, I went back and reapplied for episode 11, and I still haven't received a response yet. It says it could take up to like 72 hours. But I went back and listened to that episode too. And dude, we didn't even say anything. Like, this is what pisses me off. And it shows you how far AI's come, because their AI algorithm back then sucked. Because I'm like, dude, we didn't even say anything. If anything, we actually, criticized Plandemic, right? If they actually listened to it and you had a human, we actually criticized even the lady. It's like, no, I don't know about all this and that or whatever. And we still got it. It was still censored.
It was interesting what you said, and I've been trying to remember our mindsets. And I did listen to that episode, and I'm going to say that I don't think our opinions on things have changed that much, but some things have, because the passage of time, and as we all say, one of you two guys said at the beginning of the episode, don't make up your mind. I think it was Roger. Don't make up your mind. Let's let some facts come out. Have an opinion now, but as we've all seen with George Floyd and the Gentle Giant and Trayvon Martin and all that stuff, let's kind of let the facts come out. I think we've adjusted well to the facts that have come out, while staying true to who we really are, deep down, those core beliefs. I think it was an interesting listen to it. I'd encourage people to go back and listen. It's only 30 minutes. It's really short. But one thing you said is interesting, Roger, or whatever. Josh, if you want to jump in, I feel like we're leaving you out. But Roger, you said, and I don't know if it was slip of tongue or whatever, but you said the anti-vax people back then were the left. Oh, I know why. The anti-vax people back then were the left-wing people, and the pro-vax were the right-wing people. Extreme, you said, on both ends.
Right.
But now I just realized, as I talk myself through it, it's because Trump was developing the vaccine.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Ah, okay.
And then it was cool once Biden came in, because that's when Stephen Colbert and the nurses you were talking about and all that. That's when all that stuff came out, because, Biden was in charge, and, it was all good now.
Yep.
Let me ask y'all this. Does Trump carry any responsibility for allowing Fauci to have the influence that he had?
Yes.
100%.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
He's
And if I was Trump, I wouldn't
agree.
even bring it up.
No.
Like he brings it up, right? You know, how he touted warp speed, Operation Warp Speed. Like literally, if I was him, that's like the last thing that comes out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Did you guys see that he's going to honor the pardon? He said he's not going to mess with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said that today. Trump said that this afternoon. Yeah, some kind.
You know what though?
I think he knows better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it made me, when we were typing this earlier today, talking about the pardon and this and that, it made me wonder why, because if they were going to mess with it, they would have done it months ago. Right. So it's kind of like, I don't think they're going to mess with this thing. And even to your point, Luke, I was like, yeah, you know, they're not going to give any pushback on this stuff. And I'm hoping, okay, and I know Josh is going to laugh at me, and he's probably right. You know, what I hope is that, hey, man, we know we're good on, you know, he's good on the federal pardon. We're not going to mess with that because it's going to get tied up in the court. It'll go all the way to SCOTUS, dude. That thing's going to get pushed off until Fauci's dead, right?
Yeah.
They just won't take the case up. But what I'm hoping is that there is a plan that, okay, you know what? Where there's 23 red states or whatever it is, 27, guess what? 27 AGs are going to hold you on state charges. And so I'm hoping that they didn't just look at our tweets from earlier today or X posts and say, oh, that's a great idea. I'm hoping they already had that in the back of their mind. But as I say that out loud, as I say that out loud, yeah, as I say that out loud, that's probably not the case.
So Josh, make your point. Make your point. Go off on your tirade, and then I got one last COVID story.
I didn't.
Oh no, but go ahead. Go ahead. You hadn't talked a lot.
No, it's all good. I will make a plea to Elon, to anyone else out there that has some very, very deep pockets. It would be amazing if you would start pulling folks, getting with families, getting with folks who are deplatformed, getting with, with folks who had family members, die by themselves in a room because, of people like Fauci, and fund the civil litigation and help them bring it, against Fauci. Dude, I think if you get that ball rolling, then yeah, I the federal level with the pardon, they're not going to mess with it. But I think if the states can get the ball rolling, especially in the civil on the civil side, then that pardon doesn't matter. So I would like to see some philanthropists out there help move that along, because that's going to be a big lift.
I think it happens,
especially money wise.
I honestly think it happens.
Does.
I think several AGs come forward, file state charges. I think there's, I think you're going to see some, and there may already be some in play. I mean, just, it obviously takes a while. I'm still trying to get my meta money from my 2014 Facebook account, but it's, I wouldn't be surprised if it was already in play.
See, I don't know if Ken Paxton, who's running for Senate here, I don't know if he's still at AG or not. I don't know how that works. I think he is. That would be a good thing for him to do for his campaign, is the same thing that the Florida AG is doing. It's like, no, we're not letting this slide. That would be a good move on him. Yeah. Talk about whatever. So
I could see.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I could see obviously the AG in Florida, but the AG in Missouri as well doing it, because that guy was very consistent throughout COVID. Missouri's not doing this. Missouri's not doing that. Nope. He was very consistently, very conservative on that.
They can prove if they could prove any kind of damages, it's, you got to have founding. I grokked that today. And it's like, yeah, it can be done. Civil suits and state suits can be done, but here are the hurdles. And there are like 4 significant hurdles to doing it. And the biggest one is damages. You've got to be able to prove damages.
I'm reading that now. What's interesting is same thing with Grok, is that they official immunity protections for his actions taken in his government role. And I think that's where the diary comes in, because I think before, I think you're spot on, right? Hey, this was my, I'm a scientist. I'm paid by the U.S. government, highest paid federal employee at the time, by the way. And this is my professional opinion. But I think when you have that, and then you have his diary that says the exact opposite, I think that's where it's going to get dicey.
Yeah. I was going to tell a story about, my daughter's ex-boyfriend who I hated, where I traveled all the way to New York City for her. She pinned on captain, and she did it at West Point. She was a general's aide at the time, and she really wanted me to be there. So I went. I actually had a good time in the city. Only there for 3 nights, and, went to a show, went to some good restaurants, kind of walked around. It was good for 3 nights. That's it. I was done, but I had a good time. It wasn't as bad as they make it out to be on the TV. But we went out to dinner one night, and this guy's mother is a physical therapist, like, the real thing, PhD level. And she, not only is she a physical therapist, she's also a college professor. And they were very left wing. Okay. The son, not as much as the mom, but I could tell right away the mom was like, and I was like, I got to play this cool. I am not going to bring up anything. And I didn't. I kept it all neutral, talking about the weather and talking about how do these architects do that? We should go to the 9/11 museum, even though that's on the that's on the line. 9/11, the Statue of Liberty for a lefty is like, you're flirting with disaster there. But she over dinner was the one that brought up COVID. And the one thing with COVID is that became very political very quickly, where you advertised what side you were on by whether you wore a mask or not. That's kind of how it was for 99% of the population. She brought it up, and, but I was still trying to stay neutral. But what really freaked me out, and this is a woman who is in the medical field, who teaches people about medical stuff. I know it's just physical therapy, but still, you should kind of know the basics, or at least have your eyes open to the way things work. I said, yeah, the wife and I had it, we were overseas. And she goes, you got COVID. And I was like, yeah. She goes, you're lucky. And I'm like, excuse me. And she goes, you're lucky. You got COVID and you're still with us. And I'm like, and she was serious. She was serious. She goes, you're very fortunate. And I'm like, lady, what world do you live in? I had to play it cool. I was like, yeah, I guess we're pretty lucky. But that's the mental disconnect that I just can't get over. So we've talked about COVID for an hour now, and Josh didn't even use any lube or anything, man. He just nice and dry. So I know Josh we can spend maybe 10 minutes on this. We don't have to spend long. Because I bet you Josh got some stuff he wants to throw some curveballs at us. But I made a post the other day, and I want to talk about it with you guys on here, on our X account. And I basically I was thinking about it. It started with swim lessons. I was like, we still have a Department of Education. They haven't shuttered that yet. Why don't they teach swim lessons to first graders? Why isn't that a national push? So I started looking up the numbers of people that die of drowning in this country. At the age where, you always hear these stories of, a little baby will die in 2 inches of water or something. Well, they don't have it's hard to teach a baby to swim, but at anything past 6 years old, not knowing how to swim is that's a shame. That's a critical skill. It's like, why don't they teach that in the public schools? So I just brainstormed a little bit because I was procrastinating on something else I didn't want to work on. And I came up with this list. And I'd like, if you guys want to add to it or take away, feel free. But I said, here's a partial list of what should be taught in public schools. Some of these would be beginning in first grade, and some would progress and build on one another through the middle and high school, middle school and high school. Swimming and water safety starting in first grade. Because I think I was in first grade when I learned to swim. Okay, Phoenix, Arizona. Practical economics and personal finance. We could talk about that. Home economics. Mandatory 2 years and one or more of 4 trade electives: automotive literacy, carpentry, welding, metal fabrication, electrical. You could throw plumbing in there, I guess, but how many kids would want to take that? First aid, CPR, and basic emergency response, media literacy and information evaluation, practical digital competence, workplace and soft skills, conflict resolution and de-escalation, and local civics. Now, the reason I put workplace and soft skills and conflict resolution and de-escalation is because lately the three of us complain about it all the time on our little message thread. Is these kids just don't know how to act. They don't know how to have a conversation. I'm talking about customer service. They just don't. I told y'all I ran into a full-on mentally handicapped guy who was manning the convenience store by himself. Like, he wasn't bad. He could still work the register, but he was mentally challenged. And he was better at customer service than an 18-year-old kid. Put it to you that way. Now, Josh threw one in there, and we're going to include this one as well. Basic martial arts, wrestling, and this would be an elective, like a PE. If you want to take this one instead of football, you can take this one, or basketball, or whatever. Basic martial arts: wrestling, boxing, jiu-jitsu, edged weapons defense, blunt object defense, and personal defense systems competencies. That would be firearms. So, or bear spray, or whatever. It's like, and I ran this by a coworker, and they said, well, what about, all the other stuff like, trigonometry? And I'm like, eliminate it. Because not only did I not take trigonometry in high school, I've never used it. You know what else I've never used? Algebra 2. I have used Algebra 1 from time to time. I actually have. I just didn't know I was using it. But you don't need that stuff, dude. You really, really don't. And if you are smart about this stuff, you can incorporate some aspects of other classes they have to take into these. Especially the first aid CPR. You can incorporate biology into that. You can incorporate health into that. If they're taking it for a whole year, it's like, guys, come on, am I crazy?
No, I don't think you're crazy at all. And especially in the economics piece, you want to create a generation of conservatives. Taxes.
There you go.
Let's teach you how about taxes. Oh, yeah. You get to a certain point, guess what? You don't use the 1040 EZ anymore, right? So that create a generation of conservatives. Yeah, that I think your list is solid. My addition was the firearms.
Yes.
Right? Basic firearm safety, basic marksmanship. But that goes back because you used to have, and they still do in a lot of places. They still have schools that do that. They have a marksmanship class where it's pellet guns, but that's fine. Right, you're teaching basic firearm safety, and then just regular marksmanship. And I think the self-defense thing I think it's fantastic. I think that would be a great idea.
Like, if you could come up with these electives, right? You bring these kids in, and you got a kid in his freshman year, he takes automotive literacy or welding, metal fabrication. You could put them on a track where it's like, by the time you graduate, a senior, you will be a certified welder or a certified electrician. You don't have to go to college. You don't even have to go to trade school. We're going to do it right here.
Dude, if you want an ASE certified mechanic coming out your senior year of high school, kill it.
Yeah.
So Luke, you said when you learned how to swim, you learned how to swim in school, or you took private lessons?
No, it's private lessons. There were no school swim lessons. No. Now, I know it would cost a lot, especially with rural schools, to have a pool to maintain it. But Mother of God, I mean, how many lives would be saved, especially with automotive literacy and stuff like that? Like, think of the lives that would be saved, or the CPR and first aid. Like, you got a 16-year-old lifeguard's got to do it anyway. So why not teach that in class? Teach them how to use the things that bring your heart back to life. Teach them how to do that, man. And you know what started this? Because I thought about the swimming lesson. And now we're just talking kids. Now I'm just talking kids these days again. But, I thought the swim lessons, I'm like, put that in school. And then I thought about what happened to my wife over the weekend. She teaches swim class or some water exercise class up at the pool where we live, and she hangs around up there and lays out in the sun and does her thing afterwards. I'm not going to repeat that. Okay. Anyway, she's up there and she's finishing up. She's putting her stuff away for all her students that are in there, and she goes into the locker room bathroom to change, and she hears these tittering little 16, 17-year-old lifeguards, and they're all crowded in this little stall, and she's like, what's going on back there? And the toilet was clogged because some nasty lady took a giant dump, and these girls 16, 17 did not know how to plunge a toilet. So Michelle had to teach them how to plunge a toilet. And it's like, what the hell, dude? Like, I can't remember what age I learned to plunge a toilet. It was probably 11, 12, maybe younger.
Nah, you clogged a toilet way earlier than that.
There's,
it's like, what?
God
bless.
When you look at some of this stuff, right? That, there are efficiencies to be made, in the current school systems. Some of this stuff too, like parents, you need to, there's some OJT type stuff with, hey man,
shit, some of the parents don't know how to do it.
Dad comes in and, dad clogs up the toilet. Hey, come here, son, learning. This is an opportunity. This is a teaching moment, right? I'm gonna show you how to do it.
But
right?
it stinks, Dad.
I know, right?
You
give them the Friday, be like, boy, I've been smelling your shit for years. Get in here. You can smell mine for 5 minutes. So like our middle daughter, she had a flat tire. She got a flat tire on the way home. Luckily, it happened just before our neighborhood, and she was like, "Oh, I think my tire's flat." But she was able to roll into the house in the driveway and everything. And long story short, it was they already knew how to change it. They knew how to change a tire. They oh yeah, I got to jack it up, but they had never actually done it. And so it was like, guess what? We're gonna go learn how to, now's the time. And so it was laying on the sidewalk or laying in the driveway, under the car. I'd be like, okay, your jack goes here. Don't ever put it here, here, here. It goes right here. This is the divot for it. This is, blah, blah, blah. All right, now we're breaking lug nuts, and it's, throw the tire in the back of the 4Runner. It's like, okay, get in, because we're going to the tire store, right? You're coming along for this, for this evolution. And it was, watching them put the tire on. It just that basic stuff, some of that falls on the parents. But I agree with you. The whole trig, dude. I don't know I don't know if I ever used trig because I never took it. So maybe in woodworking, maybe in woodworking I'm using some trig. Maybe I'm using some algebra. Doing work. I don't know, dude. I took algebra 1 and I got a D in it, and I was like, I don't care because I'm graduating high school, and it's
now.
Whatever.
To be clear, I am not saying that there shouldn't be algebra 2 and trig and stuff like that. I'm saying that, for the kids like me, dude, I am mathematically challenged, and I wish I wasn't. Algebra 2, I barely got through it. Barely. Had to have a tutor and all this stuff. But these other things could be incorporated in. Absolutely. And I think about the things I actually learned in high school and middle school. You guys are going to laugh, but I took a home economics class when I was in middle school. Home economics. That's when I first learned what seasoning a cast iron pan is. I have used that more than I've used any of the other crap, really, like practical stuff I learned. I learned a lot in the health class in high school because I had a good teacher,
I was gonna say that from the health perspective, dude, what they need, functional health. Functional health. You want to get rid of a lot of these, Gianna mentioned earlier, these comorbidities. Teach functional health. Hey, guess what? You don't have to be a power lifter to be in good shape, right? You don't have to do. Here's your 30-minute workout. You should do every day. Here's yoga. Here's this. Here's that. Here's whatever. Some functional health, some actual nutrition, Not the food, not the bullshit food pyramid that we all learned. That was like, you need 13 servings of carbohydrates every day. So, but an actual, no kidding, nutrition. Like, hey, every day, just simple. Track your macros. Track your macros. You know.
So what do you think that just guess, because there's no way to know this. Write a note so I don't forget. So what do you think the and don't take your kids, think about the average kid. What do you think the percentage of 18-year-old boys now could make themselves an over easy fried egg? Hell, scrambled eggs.
God, dude, it's
Well, they're going to get
less
scrambled because they're going to fuck up the over easy and it's going to turn into scrambled. So
Make it to where it's like
on
edible.
100% on the scramble, 25% on the over easy.
I would say less than 10%.
To properly make,
Yes.
I should have said that, because it's a boiled egg. Probably about the same. That's what you'd learn in home economics. Learn how to survive, man. So when you go get that electrician job or plumbing job because you got your certification, or automotive, you're going to be a mechanic, you can actually live on your own and not eat Firehouse subs every night. I'm having Firehouse subs tonight. But try to remember the 20 years ago that y'all were single for 30 seconds with no prospects. Think about this. You're out on a date with a girl you're sweet on, and your truck gets a flat tire. You pull over and you're like, I got this. You're right. And this is your second date. You're trying to impress her. And she gets out with you and she goes, think about back in the day. And she goes, you know what? Let me do it, or let me help, because I know how to do it. Because she knows how to do it. Because her dad taught her how to
Whatever,
do it.
dude. Whatever.
No, but think about that. Oh, no. There were girls back in my sisters knew how to change a tire. But back in the day, I would think, I'd be like, oh, man, I got to keep her right here. You would think, oh, hell yeah. And you would actually probably think it's kind of hot. Nowadays, it's probably the girls who know how to change the tire, not the guy. And the guy's going to be sitting there.
Hey, remember that one student came back upstairs, was like, I have a flat tire. And everybody's kind of like, go change it. It's like, I don't know how to change a tire. This person was in the United States military, did not know how to change a tire on his car. And it's, hey man, look, I get it. You don't need to know how to drive an 18-wheeler. But my Lord, you need to know how to change a tire. Especially if you're a dude, you need to know how to change a tire. You need to know how to change the oil in your car. And you need to know how to do just basic, what we used to refer to as 10 level maintenance. You need to be able to do that.
That change in the oil thing nowadays on some of these cars, though, like, dude, man, it's not even the same thing.
Yeah, no, today it's problematic today. And I mean, that started a while ago. I did my big black truck that I had when we were all in Maryland. I couldn't change the spark
The one with no AC?
that. Yeah. God. Hey man, I was
one of the things I like is some of these people suing some of these big companies. John Deere just got sued and they lost over the right to repair.
Yeah.
Because when I had that BMW that I bought in Europe, it was like they were very clear when I bought it. It's like, if you change the oil on this in the next 3 years, it voids the warranty. And I'm like, what? And they're like, oh yeah, you have to take it into a dealership.
I think they just signed an executive order on that like a couple months
ago.
I'm not sure if I'm not mistaken.
But these companies are making these things like the Tacoma I got, new Tacoma. It's like, I'm looking at the engine. I'm like, and the engine's good, man. The engine's really good. But I'm looking at it, I'm like, I would have no idea what to do on this. It does not look like an engine that I know.
Yeah. Like I was saying, on my big black truck, I could not get to one of the spark plugs because of the way they designed the engine. I would have to take the manifold cover off to get to get to one of the spark plugs, just to change the spark plugs. And so you're like, well, I guess I'm taking it to the dealer because that's not you start taking manifold covers off and shit like that. Like that's not 10 level maintenance. anymore. We're past that. You got to take that's going to third shot.
Three.
So how many
So-
like junior highs or middle schools and high schools did you guys go to? Was it like one apiece or
No.
just one?
No, I went to one middle school, 3 elementary schools, and 1 high school.
I went to one each.
One each. Because I was looking at the list of what you put on here, and this is where so I moved around a lot. I went to 3 different high schools. My sister went to 4. I probably went to 5 different middle schools, combination middle school, junior high. And it was weird as we were talking about it because there was a lot of this stuff that they used to teach back in the day. But then I realized, well, it all wasn't at the same school. It was at different schools and they had different curriculum and this and that. Because like I remember in Maryland, a matter of fact, like, dude, you did like a week of track and field, you did a week of archery, you did a week of golf, you did swimming. I think I can't remember if it was there or not. You shot a 22 long rifle. You went out there and it's like they just did that stuff. You went to you had woodworking class, you had, and like Luke said, you had, I can still remember it, had home ec, and I learned to sew some freaking shark pillow that you sew it and turn it inside out and then stuff it, right? Stupid stuff like that. But it's the I think and what Luke is saying to his point is, you should have tracks. We're not saying get rid of trigonometry, geometry, and this, that, but you need to have tracks. And folks are going to go down the healthcare track. And that's one good thing that they're doing here that I've seen, even though we get pooped on a lot for education, but the ESA stuff is really, it's going to go places and it's going to help a lot of kids out because that's what they're doing is they're having tracks here. Like right down the street, we have, and I forget, they're basically called, back in the day, they were VOTECs, but they're VOTEC high schools. So it's like, hey man, if you want to be an auto mechanic, okay, I understand. Let's get some basic math and basic English and this and that. But let's teach you auto mechanic stuff. Or if you want to be a medical professional, let's take you down the nursing route or whatever. And like I mentioned before, they're starting to Arizona is allowing community colleges to issue 4-year degrees. That way your HVAC guy or gal can do 2 years of HVAC work. And oh, by the way, let's teach you how to run a business too. So you can own your own HVAC work or whatever. Versus teaching folks, because there were folks early on, you kind of know it's like, I'm not going to be the doctor. You kind of know that, hey, I'm not going to be a lawyer. Kind of figure that one out pretty early too, right? Or, you're going to be a journalist or whatever the case is. So, have those tracks that are available. And some of those schools do. And Arizona is doing a pretty good job of it. I mean, we get pooped on a lot. But I tell you the biggest, one of the biggest things, and people can go back and forth, like, I love all the swimming and the wrestling. Also, again, we're not talking about an entire year. You can do that. You break it up in semesters. We used to do weeks of it. I hated soccer. We'd do a week of soccer. I'm like, this is the dumbest sport ever, but you played it for a week and then it was volleyball. And then it was just to, expose you to that stuff. But the biggest piece, and you mentioned this early up front, Josh, is the economics piece, personal finance, investing, here's what taxes are. Here's how much you really make. And I remember, dude, I would think I was in 9th grade. We used to do paper trading. You got the newspaper every day and, the teacher would give you, the $1,000 and, hey, show you, this is how you trade. These are what stocks are. These are what tickers are. Here's how and it was very basic, right? Because, you're 9th grade, but hey, here's how you evaluate what back then it was PE and PE ratio was like the big thing. But it was like, hey, here's how you evaluate what a good stock is. And here's how the press impacts that stock. And so you started out the quarter with $1,000 or whatever. And, the winner was whoever had more paper money at the end of the quarter or whatever. But there's a lot of those things that, hey, here's how you fill out your tax form. I mean, even now with as much stuff as, we teach our kids and we pass down, I still, my son, when he got his jobs, like, Dad, they're giving me this W-4. Like, what do I put on here? Well, hey, this is what this means, and they're asking the right questions, but you got even grown-ups. They're like, well, I claim 30. I'm like, okay, no, you're going to claim 0. Let them take everything out because you don't want to owe at the end of the year. You're not going to miss the $27 they're taking out of your paycheck, but you'll hate the $300 that you at the end. But it just goes back to personal, like that's how you're going to teach them to make sure that they have some type of wealth and they can support themselves. And then as Luke mentioned, there's a lot of those things you tie into there. Like, hey, maybe you don't need to necessarily teach geometry, but I guarantee if you take woodworking, you're going to learn some geometry, but you're going to learn applicable and practical geometry, right? That pertains to carpentry or woodworking
Yep.
or whatever it is that you're doing. So yeah, there's absolutely ways to interject that. It's just we've gone away from, actually teaching kids how to survive. It's no different at the college level, right? College, we're supposed to teach you a career. We've just gone away from any of that stuff. And at the high school level on down, it's all unions. It's no longer what's good for your kids. It's what the teachers want to do. And that's another thing that COVID brought up. It's as the teachers. And again, we said this way back then, I don't know if it was that episode or not, but you look at reputations that were damaged. It's going to take a decade, if not more, for teachers' reputations to come back, because the school system, the unions and the teachers got to the point where I know what's better for your kid than you do. That's another thing that pisses me off.
So with the practical economics piece, you teach that. You've got the perfect opportunity here. You guys would not believe. I mean, you could look it up right now. What is my ISD's budget? I mean, it will blow your mind what it is. So if we instituted this practical economics as a 2-year, maybe 9th and 10th grade, I don't know, maybe even earlier than that, maybe 8th and 9th grade, something like that. It'd be difficult, but you teach them the basics, like you're talking about, Josh. Unfortunately, we don't balance checkbooks anymore, but that was a thing back in the day. I took a business class where we learned to do that, even though I already knew how to do it. But you've got the IRS Form 4547 now, where every one of these kids should be walking into that class with $1,000 have already been invested since they were born or since they were 1 year old, right? The Trump accounts is what I'm talking about. So how about every one of if you take this class, here's your incentive to take. Oh, no, you have to. I think it should be mandatory. When you take this class, you're going to get the West Point. You're going to get the West Point treatment, where when you take your economics class at West Point, we're giving you a $10,000 basically interest-free loan, right? They just basically give them $10,000. And when they take this economics class at West Point, I think it's their junior year, something like that, they teach them what they can do with that money, and they just let them do whatever they want with it, right? You could give each student $100 or whatever. When you take this class, you're going to get $100, and it's going to go, but there are strings attached. You're not going to get a check for $100. It's not going to go to your account. It's going to be available for you to put in your Trump account to invest however, whatever. I don't know how the Trump accounts work. I don't know if they work like TSP or what, but it would be an extra incentive to do that. It's just, to me, it just actually works. But like Roger said, it's never going to happen because of the damn Department of Education and teachers unions. The other thing Roger said was the technical aspect that a lot of high schools are leaning into that. The Amarillo ISD has really leaned into it, and they have something called Amtech now. And Amtech is a central location. You can choose to go on a track where with Amtech, and you can go any track you want. But one of the things they look at is engineering, believe it or not, engineering, like practical engineering and avionics. They're flying drones out there. You know who's expressed a lot of interest in Amtech for workforce innovation? Universities and colleges are tied in deep with Amtech. You know who else? Pantex, Department of Energy, is involved hip deep in Amtech, and also Bell Helicopter. Do you think that they're going to Amarillo High School or Tascosa or Palo Duro and looking for the next, helicopter engineer or mechanic that's going to work out there? Nope, they're going to Amtech. And my point is, there is a wait list for Amtech. You got to be like a star student, because the kids aren't just going in for avionics. These kids now, I think, and I credit the parents, especially at that age, it's like, you got to be practical. We can't afford college. You don't want a loan. You need to learn a trade. And I can really see it like kind of turning around, from the you got to go to college thing to nah, we need to stick with the trades. So you could be making $65,000 once you graduate, at least, But anyway, just wanted to throw those 2 points in.
I just pulled up my school district. So,
oh God,
we spend about $150 million a year, roughly 15,000 students. So it comes out to 10 grand a student per year. And the state average is about $15,000 per student per year.
That surprised me. I thought it'd be more there.
Arizona's pretty low on it. What they're doing though is like it's different from here than it is out east. Because like out east, if you went to charter school, it means you got in trouble and you had to go get your JED or something like that. Your good enough diploma. Out here, the charter schools, most of them are tied to a public. Well, they're considered public. They all are. It's tied to a regular, quote unquote, public school, or it's a standalone. But a lot of your charter schools out here, man, because your ESA dollars, right? So you live in a district that has a shitty school system. You say, you know what? I'm sending my kid down here to Ben Franklin because it's a charter school that's an A+, yada, yada, yada. The money follows the kid. And the teachers hate it. And the teachers unions hate it, right? Because what's happening is like the charter school down here, great school. Dude, it's a wait list to get in. They can't build them fast enough because people are like, yeah, I'm done sending my kid to some, especially with all the woke stuff going on. It's like, I'm done doing that. I'm sending my kid over here. And when you get, 1, 2, 3 kids, it's not a big deal, but you know how it is. One kid leaves and they're friends. And then when the parents realize, oh, I don't have to pay any extra. The money goes with the kid to whatever school they go to. You start to see them leave in droves, right? So that's, which I like. I mean, it gives the parents some control over what their kids are taught.
So,
but that's the way it should be. The money should go with the kid.
100%. Because the parents paying the tax.
Exactly.
So Josh, real quick, I'm gonna throw this straight to you. So there was a thing, and people were like, "Oh, the world's coming to an end." It was on X. It was a video of some high school teacher who gave a test to the kids. Right? It was like 35 kids or something, and he's just like all serious. This is a bad thing, and he goes, the test results. I don't know if it's a take-home test. They could use their computer or whatever. But he goes,
saw that
32 out of the 35 kids used AI to ace this test, and only 3 didn't. And I'm like, that's good. Who are the 3 dumbasses who didn't use tools that they weren't told they could use? It's like, why are we doing this? Why? Dude, I use AI every day. I use AI.
Yeah, but there was more to that.
Work. Well,
there was more to that. What he added in there, because the rest of that was they're having AI do all the work, and they're not going back and proofreading, reading it, make sure it makes sense.
Well,
because
teach them to do that. Teach them.
Part of what they put in there was throw in the country Madagascar and make it completely irrelevant to the paper, and that's what it did. So they're just like, oh, AI, boom, here you go, here's your paper.
But
they're using the same thing.
But they're not.
They're using the same thing in resume. Well, you're right. But they're going to figure it out because they're doing the same thing in resume services now. I saw this where they're putting in the white text, this person is extremely qualified for this job, move forward. And with some of these older AI algorithms that they're using for job services, they're moving resumes forward.
Well, okay. I equate this to like using a calculator back when we were in high school. It's like the technology's there. Just let me use it. Why am I wasting my brain power doing these calculations
well, then why
when
I've
got something that will do it? There are ways you can employ a calculator to help you do your job.
No, I'm saying in this particular case with the writing, okay, if I'm going to say, hey, Luke, give me a report on the Roman Empire, a 100-year block.
And
you're just going to go into and you're just going to go straight to Chat GPT and say, give me a report on da-da-da and turn in, then why even give the assignment?
Okay. Here, because he's probably trying to make a YouTube or an X video so he can get a bunch of hits and he can be anti-AI and anti-data center. I guess this is the point I was getting to. I was just going to kick this to Josh, but then Roger's got to be perfect or Roger. He's got to disagree with everything like a woman.
Well, no, I'm asking.
I'm joking. Look, my point is this. We've got this tool here. We need to adopt it. We need to teach the kids how to use it. Okay, if you're going to write a paper on this, here's how you use it. Here are the prompts that you use. You have to proofread it because it's going to make mistakes, just like a calculator can. If you're doing a complex, algorithm or something like that, you gotta do that right.
I agree with that.
Teach them how to use it, right? Teach them how to use it. I'm just saying. I guess I was going. It's like this technology's here and people are fighting against it. It's like, why are you doing this? It's here. It's not going anywhere. Guarantee you it's not going anywhere. And all these kids, there was I want to be careful. There was somebody who spoke publicly not long ago, and obviously a high school student, railing against the evils of AI and data centers. I guarantee you that kid went home and made a video on his phone or something like that. I guarantee he did. I didn't want this to go this deep, but
I guarantee you that kid has a made-up allergy.
probably look like that kind of kid.
I guarantee you that kid's got a made-up allergy.
Yep.
No, I saw that because the professor added in the watermark, right? The the invisible watermark on the assignment, and when they copied and pasted it, plugged it into pick your AI platform of choice to generate the paper, it added Madagascar in, so it was like the economy of the southern colonies is at 3% Madagascar, whatever the assignment was, right? And they didn't go back and proofread it. Okay. So I'm going to ding you on not proofreading your stuff. But if I didn't tell you, one, you can't use AI, well, and like I'm with Luke on that. It's, well, who are the three dumbasses? Because, bro, I'm absolutely going to use it. It's like teachers back in the day, Luke's calculator thing. Well, you're not always going to have a calculator. It's like, I have a calculator in my pocket. I have an effing supercomputer in my pocket every day, all day long. Everywhere I go, guess what I carry? I carry a supercomputer.
And right? I don't know how to use it right because I was never taught. I don't know how to use it to its fullest capability because y'all didn't teach me because you said it was cheating.
Yeah. So our kids, we encourage them. If you're allowed to use it, use it because it's here. It's not the future. It's here. It's now. And guess who else is using it? All your peers. Your peers are using it. Your adversaries are using it. Your competition's using it. So you better you better get familiar with it and you better get smart on it.
It's so strange when I talk to my daughter, Josh, about AI because it's cool that you're going that way, and my stepson too. It's like when they use AI, they're saying it like they did something dirty, like they're admitting that they looked at a Playboy or something. It's like, why are you guilt? Why do you feel any level of guilt about this? It's a tool, Yeah.
I mean, if you want to still include rote memory test, okay, that's fine. But just memorizing stuff, I can memorize stuff for a test. And then as soon as that test is over, I don't ever think about it again. And guess what? So did I really learn it?
I should have memorized that Kamala Harris was the first female vice president. I can't believe, dude, that's my early Alzheimer's coming on. The other night,
when you said that, I was like,
yeah. As soon as you texted me back, I was like, I'm not talking about that MFer. And then I looked at it again. I'm like, oh, yeah. Basically, folks, I forgot that Kamala Harris was the first female president.
Yeah. No, I think the AI, and I don't think and I don't think data centers are evil. I think they need to be well thought out and well planned and put in the right places. I probably wouldn't go throw a bunch of data centers in Las Vegas or Phoenix or somewhere where there's already a struggle for water.
Shit, they look better than the warehouses they're building out here. It's funny on that point. We were driving the other day, and I told Luke they have a data center they built down the street, and I was like, "Oh, this has got to be a data center." One, it's a closed center. It's a closed system, so it doesn't use any more water. It's behind the grid. They have to generate their own power. And I tell you what, it looks 10 times better than any of these 35 Amazon warehouses they built out here because this place looks like a park around it. There's trees, they made it, very aesthetically pleasing, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, there's ways to do it.
Yeah, if it's fully self-supportive and it's not putting an additional strain on the on the local water supply, then okay, cool. Data centers, just be smart about it. Again, it's here. It's not, and we're going to have to deal with data centers here until Elon figures out a way to build one, next to the International Space Station.
What do you guys think? I want to throw this out there. Because I've been not struggling with it, but I've been thinking about it a lot. And we can talk about Flock if you want to. Maybe this can lead into Flock. But this anti-data center thing nationwide has kind of it's got me squinting my eyes at it. I had a small town, pretty small town, who's very concerned about data centers outside of Amarillo. I went, the city manager said, "Can you come talk about data centers?" I'm like, "Me? Why?" He goes, well, I heard you've done some research on it. I'm like, you got to understand, I'm not an expert at this stuff. I even called Roger. I think I talked to Josh. I was like, hey, bounces something off you. And I went and talked to this city council meeting, and I think 70 people showed up, and they said, this is the most we've ever had. And this is in rural Texas. And I gave my little presentation. I told them straight up front, guys. I told them straight up front, this presentation is data center and AI agnostic. I'm not for it. I'm not against it. All I am saying is that it exists. And I gave a couple little examples about when the automobile was, started to gain mainstream. Did y'all know that people got lynched over driving automobiles? People, if they break down or maybe, crash into something, people got killed for driving automobiles in rural areas, even in cities. It caused a lot of problems back in the day because it was a disruptive technology, right? Airports the same way. Look up the history of airport, people who were against airports back in the day. Oh boy, people did not want airports in their cities at all when they became mainstream. So I'm giving this presentation on AI and data centers, and I give an example because there's multiple ways that AI actually works, like models and training AIs. And I just gave one example. And there was a group in the back, they were absolutely against it. They were just giving me the stink eye just because I was there. And I gave, and I researched this. This is how AI models are trained. And I gave a quick 3-minute rundown on it, very simple. And one lady in the back was just shaking her head like, no, like as in, no, that's not how it works. And I'm like, that is exactly how it works. I guess my point is there is a lot of, and I haven't been reading the comments, so I'll kick it to you, Josh. You were the one that said it. There's a lot of opposition to this. And to me, honestly, it reminds me a lot of what happened in the 60s and the 70s on the opposition to nuclear power. And it has been absolutely proven that the Soviet Union had active and passive measures within the United States to oppose nuclear power because they wanted us to fall behind. And the best thing that ever happened to them was 3 Mile Island. But before 3 Mile Island, there were a lot of experimental nuclear reactor malfunctions and disasters, I guess you could say. But I look at this data center thing and the opposition to it and how strange it is to me. And I wonder, is this state sponsored too? At some level, I'm not saying it's completely responsible, but at some level is the CCP, spending a lot of money on Facebook to support, accounts. As I say Facebook, a lot of old people are against it and they have no idea what AI is, to foment a negative feeling about data centers. I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on that? Do you think that's even possible? Of course it's possible. Where do you think this is coming from? All this data center hate? Because man, cloud stuff has been around for a long time, man. It's been around for a while. But
no, you're 100% correct. It's and I just threw it in the Grok.
Oh, I'm glad you said that, Josh.
Yeah,
I'm glad you said
they
that.
they talk about China, Russia, and to a lesser extent Iran. You've got you probably have a 5%, 6%, population that's like just against it for whatever reason, and then obviously that's being stoked by foreign influencers that benefits them if we don't build data centers, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. It's there's precedent for it, like Luke said, right? Nuclear power plants, and then you have pick your adversary. They amplify that information, and they find the boomers, and some of the other folks, the Ted Kaczynskis.
A lot of young folks too, man. A lot of young folks are against it.
Yeah, so our dog Bear, his birthday was last week, and
happy birthday, Bear.
So my wife, we take pictures of our pets all the time, right? We all, all three of us do. We share them in our, various group chats and stuff. And So my wife had a picture of Bear, and she just used a quick chat GBT to put a birthday hat on him, and she sent it out to our family group chat, and it was like, hey, right, it's Bear's birthday today, blah blah, and one of our daughters was like, AI is killing the planet, and I was like, what? It was like AI is killing the planet because it takes so much energy and so much power and all these resources, stuff like that. I was like, no, no, no. AI is not killing the planet. It may come alive and kill all of us, like the Terminator. I was like, but it ain't killing the planet, right? Um, Never mind the fact that you like to drive your car, all over, all over hell's creation in our area, to go see this friend and go hang out with your boyfriend, blah blah. But yeah, your carbon footprint, is enough for a small town. But yeah, AI is killing the planet. Okay. So
You know what else was killing the planet back in the
see
day?
it in young
The
kids.
printing press. The printing press was
The
going to
printing
be
press.
it was going to be a really bad thing.
I will say that growing up, my older sister, her hairspray absolutely killed the planet. It like killed some of the planet.
Chlorofluorocarbons. How do I still know that word?
I guarantee you, the house we lived at, dude, there was no ozone layer above that, above our house. That was gone.
I'm gonna throw the go ahead. Sorry.
No. So I've seen, firsthand, younger folks like pushing back a little bit against the AI, and it's like, hey, you can push back against this thing all you want, but it's here, and it's going to be a very large part of your future, and whatever comes after that, which it's probably like some Minority Report stuff.
Here's where I'm gonna flip the script on Josh, and Minority Report is a perfect segue.
I knew you were.
Segue is spelled SEGUE. And I'm going to throw this out there. It's like throwing a grenade into a room, and I'm just going to run away. So, you know what else uses AI? Our flock cameras. And a lot of people don't like flock cameras. There are people who may not know what flock cameras are, so maybe explain it.
So, flock cameras, if you're not tracking them, they're cameras that are being thrown up wherever. You can, if you have enough money, you can go buy flock cameras and have them put up wherever you want in your neighborhood, wherever. And it grabs license plates of cars that drive past them. And then there's some debate on where that data ends up, who has access to that data. I'm not a fan of them. I'm 100% not a fan of them because who has access to that data? Well, it's whoever paid for it, right? So if you have the subscription to those flock cameras, then you have access to that data. Well, who is that? Well, it could be damn near anybody. I'm not a fan of them. It just adds to the UTS environment, and I don't think they should be legal.
So I'm going to add a little context, and then we can talk more. So the majority of the flock camera users are law enforcement, mainly local law enforcement, state level law enforcement, county, so on and so forth. So yeah, the flock camera will capture, like Josh said, anybody can do it. You could have Walmart might want to install some flock cameras, but Walmart itself, in some states, can capture a license plate, but they may not be able to access the database to see who that license plate belongs to, right? Maybe they can in some states, maybe they can't in others. But law enforcement can. So they'll take that data, this license plate went past, these two places, and they can figure out who that license plate is supposed to belong to. Now, what they'll usually do is very complex. It's actually kind of impressive. It is very, in some cases, Minority Report-esque. Is like if a license plate is tied to a certain, or if a person is tied to a certain crime or a license plate or whatever, and that person is tied to a license plate, they can run it through these algorithms and pretty much trace that movement, and it's kind of scary. So that's why people. I think that's one of the reasons. in my opinion, I don't disagree with you, Josh, but in my opinion, I think people are concerned that law enforcement is going to use that data, in a nefarious way. That's the feedback I'm seeing, at least online. That's the chatter, not necessarily big corporations, even though that is a concern. I'm more concerned with where is this data exactly? Whatever. Can China buy a subscription? Whatever. But around here locally, people are kind of concerned, how much is this being shared with the federal government? And that's a concern, for whatever reason. And you get a lot of the, John, you're going to hate this, but you get a lot of the, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, what do you have to worry about? Patriot Act.
It shit drives me nuts. It drives me nuts. The other issue with flock cameras, and I know Roger's got things to say on this too. The other issue with flock cameras, so you pull up and you look at, the nearest military installation to me is Fort Bragg. You cannot drive on to Fort Bragg without passing a flock camera. So every single person, every single vehicle that goes on to Fort Bragg drives right past a flock camera to get access. So in theory, if I'm an adversary, I just need that data, and then I can go find out every single vehicle, who this registered to, that it goes on to that installation. And oh, by the way, I can also figure out, okay, so they access the post from this direction. Okay, where do they work? I never see them come out of any other direction. Okay, well, where do they work? Who are they assigned to? And everybody knows that there's sensitive organizations that, are headquartered on Fort Bragg. I don't think they should be near military installations. I don't think they should be near sensitive facilities. But, it doesn't, whatever. I don't think they should be legal. I don't think they should be a thing. I'm not even a fan of the license plate readers that police have on their vehicles.
Roger, you're being very quiet. You had a lot to say in the group chat.
No, I think texting obviously is more difficult because you can't get all of your thoughts in. But I don't disagree with Josh. I mean, I don't like flock cameras. Not a fan of them. I understand the uses of them. I think there's ways to employ them because they do solve a lot of crimes. They do. There is a lot of good. They threw some numbers out there, and I forget what they were, but I mean, it was actually larger than what I thought. I just think that, one, you look at the data aspect of it, and there is a little bit, again, there's some trusting where flock safety says, hey, we don't sell data. And when you posted something the other day, it was patterns, pattern analysis, this and that, and supposedly they don't sell that. And then you got to look at, hey, and again, I'm just going off what they're saying. Everybody remembers Cambridge Analytica, right? And Facebook. I mean, that's the fear is that, okay, this is what they're saying. This is what it was built for. But hey, let's not, they are not a nonprofit, right? They're there to make money. So you look at the Facebook Cambridge Analytica, and that's the worst case scenario, or even farther than that. But I do think that there needs to be some constraints on it. I think there are areas where, because in the text, the HOA puts up the flock cameras, they own the data. Well, there'd be some argument there that, if the HOA can put a flock camera on HOA managed property, that they would own all that data. I mean, they would have a right to all that data if they're driving on HOA managed streets or whatever. But beyond that, I do think there are some constraints that you have to put on it, because I think, and I got this from one of the Fox News guys that was on there, one of the law enforcement officers. I like subpoenas, right? Like, hey, yeah, you can collect the data or whatever, but if you want to go farther than that or whatever, you need to subpoena the data. The other thing that worries me about it is kind of like Luke was mentioning, looking for the crime. Hey, just let me follow Josh's vehicle, because Josh is going to do something illegal driving, whether it be a turn signal, he rolled through a stop. So you know what? Let's just watch this. Oh, look at that. I don't like his vehicle, so I'm just going to follow him for a little ways, and we'll find out what he does. Next thing you know, you get a ticket in the mail, right? We're seeing a pretty big pushback here. We've actually seen several flock cameras removed. And I think where we're going to, I think it's the courts here. I think the state Supreme Court just ruled that the red light cameras, the ones that give you the tickets or whatever, that those actually go on the ballot this November. So they're going to go on the ballot. The citizens are going to vote and say, you know what, we don't like them, get rid of them, or whatever they're going to do. I think that's going to be the very same thing with Flock. Now, I don't know if that's good or bad, because when you get communities that start to, or cities and states and counties that start to ban that stuff, now you get to the point where data really becomes a problem, because that's going to be a large chunk of revenue that's gone. And when that revenue's gone, what's going to happen? They're going to start selling the data, right? It's no different than Apple Maps. You know, when you look at the iPhone, you look at it a couple years ago, even though the maps was kind of crappy compared to Google and everybody else. And now with the new OS, you pull it up, what does Apple Maps say? They sell your data.
Yep.
You know, you're going to get recommendations on that. And so that's what's going to happen. So it's a double-edged sword, because one, you need to have some constraints on them, but the more money you take out of their pocket, the more apt they're going to be to selling that data.
Well, they're going to sell the data. There's some that are already selling the data anyway. The Flock itself, the company, does not sell the data, but the user, whoever owns it, can sell it. So
I'd have to look at that agreement. I'd be fairly certain there's something in the agreement saying that they can't do that.
Well,
but I don't know. I don't know for a fact.
And you bring up the HOA thing. So let me ask you this, right? Because this is applicable, where I live. So I'm the HOA president. Our neighborhood has a HOA, but the streets are not HOA maintained. Those are not HOA streets. Those are state streets. Those streets, our streets in our neighborhood, those are maintained by the state. So can I drive on state roads?
Yeah, but I also say you'd have no expectation of privacy there.
See, and this is my rub with the whole Flock thing, is I can't opt out of that. I can opt out of not having, I can opt out. I can leave my phone at home. I don't have to take my phone with me. So the whole like, well, there's no expectation of privacy. I'm still being tracked. I'm still being tracked by the government, right? We'll keep private entities out of it. But I'm still being tracked. My movements can be tracked throughout the city, throughout wherever I live, by pick your level of government, whether it's, local.
But is that any different than surveillance and with your expectation of privacy and warrants?
Yeah, because there's no warrant. There's no warrant saying that I need to be surveilled.
Did you guys agree? I don't want to get too deep in this. We don't have too much time, but I would like to get it out there, because like Roger said, a lot can be lost in text. So like I said in the group chat, and I'm just asking, because I know where I stand on it, but if your information is being logged, do you guys remember when the intelligence oversight rules were changed? It was like like 2009, 2010. They changed the intelligence oversight rules, because what they were actually doing, if you're smart enough to read them, it's like, oh yeah, we're taking in all this data, right, but we're not looking at it.
Yeah, we're not looking at it.
It's ones and zeros, because that's all it is. It's just ones and zeros being stored somewhere, right? Now, when we think that there's something going on, then we'll go through the Pfizer or whatever it is, and we'll look at it. That's when the IO rules apply. So wait, let me get this out. So when you say you're being tracked, and I tend to agree with you, I just want to get this out. You're being tracked. Like my wife is driving around, and the Flock camera is capturing that data and is storing it for 30 days, right? But no one's looking at it, right? So it's kind of being tracked, kind of not. Now, if my wife's plates are implicated in a crime or associated with a crime, then they'll go pull that. That is what the government, and kind of like, if you look at it logically, that is when you're actually being tracked, but it's after the fact, right? But Josh, you don't like the fact, and I kind of don't either. I agree with you. You don't like the fact that data is being pulled somewhere and placed somewhere else for 30 days and is purged, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I can't opt out of that. And if you want to go with the no expectation of privacy thing, okay, well then you have no expectation of privacy on a public road. So then the federal government or your city or your state government should be allowed to place a GPS tracker on your vehicle, because it's going to be driven on state maintained, city maintained roads. So you have no expectation.
No, and see that's where we get stupid with it, because now you're talking about my private property versus me accessing a public road and then putting a camera up there. There's a difference.
It's the same.
No, it's not. It's
different.
apples and oranges, and you know
No.
that. What it comes down to, and this is where Josh is going with it, and I agree with him with this. The problem is it's going to get abused. You know, you sit there. It's like they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and there's reasons for it. And much like you said, Luke, you know, it's well, hey, it's just there and it's passively stored, right? We can go back and we can look at it or whatever, but it's right up there with, you know, they always talk about an SVU with if you're the victim and you give DNA up, that they can't use that in a criminal. Well, guess what? It is being used, and they do use it. And that's the problem with it. Right. And so then you get to the point where then what do you do to stop it? Right. Why do you have it?
You don't allow it to be put in to begin with. That's
no
that's
cameras. No cameras on any of the public roads?
No.
Okay.
Why do you need them? What does the good outweigh the bad for it to be abused? You guys
they use it for governments with your traffic lights. They use it for your emergency vehicles. They
already have traffic cameras. They already have enough. I'm saying
sensors. So those should be illegal too then. So get rid of those as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I don't need cameras to track the amount of traffic that goes past a certain point through a certain point. There's already sensors. There's sensors there that tell the red lights and green lights. They tell them, hey, there's a vehicle here. They already have data on how many vehicles come through this intersection, this, that, and the other, without the cameras. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of speed cameras. I'm not a fan of speed cameras. You want to catch me speeding?
Me neither.
You got to commit the time. You got to commit the time. You sit your ass in the bushes, law dog, and you invest the time to catch me speeding. You guys know how the you guys know the Selective Service ice cream story from the 80s?
Mm-mm.
No.
So a couple of brothers signed up at this ice cream parlor so they could get free ice cream.
Wait. Brothers or brothers?
Brothers.
Okay.
Not brothers. Racist. This episode is definitely getting pulled. All right. So they signed up a fake name with their address so they could, on birthdays and stuff like that, they could get free ice cream. Well, a year later, I think it was like a year or two later, that fake name got a letter from the Selective Service in the mail saying, hey, you're already 18 years old. You haven't registered. The federal law, you got to register from an ice cream parlor. Because you know what the ice cream parlor did? Ice cream parlor sold the data. Who'd they sell it to? They sold it to the U.S. government. Go look it up. No shit.
No, I believe it. So then the argument then, so let me ask you this then. So you're fine with Johnny, and I'm with you, dude. I don't disagree with you with like the speed cameras. Like I'm just trying to find out where the line is here. So you're good with Johnny Law sitting there, giving, physically looking at you, tagging you and giving you the ticket. I mean, if you're speeding, which I am too. I'm not a fan of that. So I don't want to. What I'm getting to. Well, yeah, I'm saying for somebody who's speeding or whatever.
Yeah.
So then do you have an issue with Johnny Law sitting outside the gates of Fort Bragg, in Fayetteville, Yadkin Boulevard or Yadkin Road or whatever the hell it is, and manually tracking every vehicle that comes through?
Yeah. I have a problem with that.
Okay. That's it.
If you want to run a speed trap, run a speed trap. That's fine.
Well, not even a speed trap. If they're just sitting there,
if you're sitting there logging every vehicle, if you're sitting there logging every vehicle that comes out, yeah, I got a problem with that.
Bottom line is I think we all fundamentally agree on this, really. My approach is kind of the same with AI. It's here. It's the agnostic approach. It's here. We have to acknowledge that, right? The thing is, how are you going to get rid of it? Like Flock is easier than AI. That ain't going away.
Yeah.
But I agree, Josh. But it's going to take, it's going to take a lot. And if you're against it, I'll say this. If you're against Flock in your community, you need to let your local leaders know, because those contracts have to be renewed every 1 to 3 years. So it's going to be your
local data.
It's going to be your local.
You're already screwed. You're already screwed at that point, because then they're going to sell your data.
Okay, so
they're 100% going to sell the data.
I guess we got to close out. I want to close out with one thing that a lot of people have forgotten about because there's a lot going on. A Michael Malice tweet. I love Michael Malice tweets. He tweeted, "If you think getting your kids home is an ordeal, imagine being Savannah Guthrie."
Oh, no.
What happened? What happened? Like Nancy Guthrie, Roger, you got to get your stuff together there in Arizona, man. Dang.
Dude, that's down in Tucson, brother.
She's
I'm up
dead.
It's Arizona.
That
Whatever.
lady
Anyway.
is not alive.
So we're gonna really try to record every week from now on, guys. But hey, it's good to be back talking to you three guys. It's good to be talking to
Happy
everybody.
Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see you around Thanksgiving. But yeah, it's fun to record. Wish we could do it more often, but we kind of thought life would slow down as we get older. That hasn't been the case, but here we are. So until next time, keep your canteen cups full and tightly secured. Peace.
Later.